So, 2 days ago, on May 27th, something happened at the Bank for International Settlements that almost nobody covered. Eight of the most powerful central banks on Earth, plus more than 40 of the world's biggest private banks, announced that a project called Agora just graduated. It's done being an experiment. They are about to start moving real money across a single, shared, programmable ledger. Visa is in, Mastercard is in, so is Swift, so is JPMorgan, so is HSBC. And here's the thing, this isn't a coin, it isn't a token, there's nothing to trade. It might just be the most important payments project you've never heard of. So today, let's walk through what Project Agora actually is, who built it, how the technology works, and where it's headed. So look, to get why Agora matters, you have to start with a problem we've all just accepted. Sending money across a border is slow, it's expensive, and honestly, it's kind of a black box. The BIS describes cross-border payments in three words: slow, costly, and opaque. And they're not wrong. When you wire money overseas, it doesn't fly straight to its destination. It hops through a chain of correspondent banks, and at every single hop, the same compliance checks get run over and over. The same sanctions screening, the same anti-money laundering review, repeated again and again, depending on how many middlemen are in the way. And here's the part most people miss. That chain has been quietly falling apart. Over the last decade, the number of correspondent banking relationships worldwide dropped by roughly a quarter, because big banks decided a lot of these connections weren't worth the compliance risk. Whole regions got cut off. So back in 2020, the G20 made fixing cross-border payments an official priority, with targets to hit by 2027. And the honest truth is, the world is not on track to meet them. So in April of 2024, the BIS Innovation Hub stepped in with something genuinely ambitious. They pulled together 7 central banks and around 40 private financial firms to test a completely different way of moving money. They named it Agora, which is Greek for marketplace, the old town square where buyers and sellers met to do business. And it's the live test of a blueprint the BIS published back in 2023, a vision they call the unified ledger. So who actually dreamed this up? Project Agora runs out of the BIS Innovation Hub, which at launch was led by Cecilia Skingsley, a former deputy governor of Sweden's central bank. The big picture vision came from the top. Augustine Carstens, the general manager of the BIS and a former governor of the Bank of Mexico. And the real intellectual architect is an economist named Hyun-Song Shin, a former Princeton professor who, as the BIS head of research, sketched out this whole idea of a unified ledger. On the private side, a group called the Institute of International Finance, led by Tim Adams, is the one wrangling all the commercial banks. But here's the twist nobody's talking about. The 3 people who launched Agora have all since left. Carstens stepped down from the BIS in the middle of 2025. Skingsley left around the same time. And Shin? In early 2026, he left the BIS to become the governor of the Bank of Korea, which, and I cannot stress this enough, is one of the central banks actually building Agora. So the man who drew up the blueprint for the future of money walked straight out the door and into a chair at one of the institutions making it real. The architects moved on, but the vision they started outlived all 3 of them, and it's only picking up speed. Okay, so what is this thing technically? At the center is that idea, the unified ledger. Picture one programmable platform where 2 kinds of money live side by side. You've got tokenized commercial bank deposits, which is basically the money in your normal bank account, just in digital token form. And you've got tokenized wholesale central bank money, the rock-solid reserves banks settle with. Put them on the same platform with smart contracts, and suddenly you can do something the old system can't: atomic settlement. That means both sides of a payment either happen together, instantly, or not at all. No more sitting in limbo for days hoping the other leg clears. Now, the design is clever. It's actually two layers. There's a shared unifying ledger up top that holds the commercial bank deposits and coordinates everything. And underneath it, separate jurisdictional ledgers, one per currency, where each central bank keeps full control of its own money. And for the crypto folks asking about consensus, the prototype runs a permission setup where pre-approved institutions validate transactions. There's no mining, no staking, no token, just trusted operators and instant finality. And the genuinely smart part is compliance. Instead of repeating those sanctions and money laundering checks at every hop, each institution runs its checks privately, in parallel, and only shares a simple pass or fail. As the BIS puts it, a shared ledger does not require shared data. So think about what that means. The old system, like SWIFT, mostly sends a message about money. Agora moves the actual asset with no risky bridge in between. And one thing worth saying clearly, this is not a central bank digital currency taking over your wallet. Banks keep issuing money. The two-tier system stays intact. It upgrades the plumbing. It doesn't replace your bank. So who's actually in the room? And this is where it gets wild. The private sector lineup reads like a who's who of global finance. JPMorgan, HSBC, Deutsche Bank, UBS, Citi, Santander, Standard Chartered, the big Japanese banks. Market plumbing giants like Euroclear. And here's the one that gets me. Visa and Mastercard, who compete for basically every card swipe on the planet, are sitting on the same platform. SWIFT is in there too. These are companies you'd expect Agora to disrupt, and instead they signed up to help build it. The journey's been steady. Announced in April of 2024, a public call for firms that May, the design phase that September, and the prototype wrapped up in May of 2026. And it's worth being honest here, because good due diligence cuts both ways. There was an earlier BIS project called mBridge, which the BIS stepped back from in late 2024. Agora is a different animal. It keeps commercial banks issuing money and keeps sanctions compliance fully intact. Now, is it perfect? Of course not. And the BIS is upfront about this. You're trying to harmonize law and regulation across 8 different countries, which is genuinely hard. It's still a prototype. It is not live for you and me yet. And programmable money raises fair questions about privacy that they're actively working through. But notice they're naming these challenges out loud and designing around them, rather than pretending they don't exist. That's exactly what you want to see from the people running the global financial system. So bring it back to that announcement 2 days ago. On May 27th, the BIS said the prototype proved the concept, and Agora is now advancing to real value testing, meaning actual money, real transactions. And the Bank of Canada just joined, bringing it to 8 central banks. So this is moving from the whiteboard into the real world right now. And it points at something even bigger. Carstens, along with Nandan Nilekani, the guy behind India's massive digital ID system, laid out a vision they call the Finternet. Think of it as a financial internet, open, interoperable, where you could move any asset, any amount, anytime, to anyone, anywhere. Carstens literally called the idea a Neil Armstrong moment for finance. Agora is the first real step toward it. Now, a lot of you are wondering, is AI involved? And I want to be straight with you, because that matters. Inside Agora today, no. The compliance is smart contract logic, not artificial intelligence. But here's the tell. The BIS has a sister project called Aurora that used machine learning to catch roughly twice as many money launderers as the old rule-based systems. And that May report specifically flags fraud detection and anti-money laundering as future enhancements. So, AI isn't the headline yet, but it is very clearly the next chapter. The pieces are lining up. So let's land this. Project Agora is, quietly, one of the most consequential things happening in finance. The actual plumbing of global money being rebuilt out in the open by the very institutions that run it. And the takeaway I want to leave you with is this. If you want to genuinely understand where money is heading, go read the source. The BIS Finternet paper and the Agora prototype report are both free, and I'll drop the links in the description and in the full write-up. Read them, and you'll understand this better than almost anyone talking about it online. And the one idea to hold on to, Agora upgrades the system. It doesn't replace your bank. So the thing to watch in 2026 is simple: whether real value testing succeeds, and whether more banks and more central banks climb on board. That's your signal. This is becoming real. So if this helped Project Agora finally make sense, do me a favor and hit subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel grow. Drop a comment with what you want me to break down next. I read every one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.